today's lecture, we will be discussing about basics of cancer. Under basics of cancers, we will be talking about differences in morphology between normal cells and cancerous cells, the distinction between benign tumors and malignant tumors. Further, we will be talking about the six hallmark of cancer, the role of proto-oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes in cancer, and the various causes of cancer as well as diagnostic methods and available treatment options. Okay. So, cancer is essentially a group of disease that involves abnormal growth. So, in normal healthy cells, both cell division and cell death are highly regulated processes. This balance ensures that old or damaged cells are removed and replaced in a controlled way. And we call this balance as homeostasis. So, in adults, the rate of cell division and the rate of cell death are kept normally in check, so the tissue remains stable in size and function. Moreover, our normal cells follow a definite pattern of division. Initially, they may be undifferentiated, but then they undergo differentiation to become specialized cells. For example, are hematopoietic stem cells present in the bone marrow. These hematopoietic stem cells, they give rise to various types of blood cells. However, in tumor cells have lost this ability. Tumor cells can no longer differentiate properly into specialized cells. Instead, they just keep on dividing in an uncontrolled way, which leads to abnormal cell proliferation and eventually formation of tumors. So, the key concept to understand here is that cancer arises cancer arises when normal balance between cell division, cell differentiation, and cell death is lost. Okay. So in this slide, we will be discussing about morphological differences between normal cells and cancer cells. So on the left hand side, you can see the structure of normal cells. So they usually have a large cytoplasm relative to that of the nucleus, a single well-defined nucleus, one small nucleolus within the nucleus, and very fine, evenly distributed chromatin inside the nucleus. Now, these features are associated with healthy and regulated cell growth and normal function. However, on the right hand side, you see the structure of cancer cells, which looks very different when you compare it to that of your normal cells. So, cancer cells typically have relatively smaller cytoplasm as compared to that of your um, normal cells. Okay, they have multiple nuclei instead of just one nuclei. Their nucleolus are not only numerous but also larger in size, and they have coarse, irregularly distributed chromatin, which reflects their abnormal gene regulation. So, this difference in structure becomes one of the key hallmarks for pathologists to identify cancerous cells under the microscope. Now, let us understand the difference between benign tumors and malignant tumors. So, on the left hand side, we have benign tumors. The cells of the benign tumors look quite similar to that of the normal cells, as we can see in this image right here. And in some cases, these cells may also function like your normal cells. More importantly, your benign tumors are localized. Localized meaning that they will remain confined to their original spot and not spread to other tissues. Moreover, your benign tumors are usually encapsulated, as we can see in the image given. Yes, they usually have a slow growth rate so that tumor remains relatively smaller. Moreover, your benign tumors are non-invasive, which means that they do not spread to your surrounding tissues. That is why, although they may cause discomfort depending on their location, benign tumors are generally not life-threatening. Now, on the right-hand side, when we talk about malignant tumors, yes, so these are very different from that of your benign tumors. The cells of your malignant tumors have been de-differentiated. Now, de-differentiated means that they have lost their structure and function of the parent tissue. In contrast to benign tumors, malignant tumors grow very rapidly, and if not treated, they can be lethal. Yes. Now, malignant tumors, they can also stimulate the growth of new blood vessels, and this property is known as angiogenesis. Why is this important? Because it supplies the tumors with nutrients and oxygen to keep it growing. Another important features of malignant tumors is that they have the ability to metastasize, that is, they have the ability to spread from their original site. So these tumors, they can travel through blood, lymphatic system, or invade directly into nearby tissues. So once metastasis occurs, treatment becomes more difficult and the disease becomes more dangerous. Okay, so in this slide, we will be discussing about the 6 classic hallmarks of cancer, right? We all know that cancer is a very complex disease, but researchers have identified a set of common features that almost all the cancers share. These are called the hallmarks of cancer. So let us go through them one by one. So the first hallmark is sustaining proliferative signaling. Now, what does that mean? So, unlike normal cells, which require external signals to divide, cancer cells can grow and divide continuously on their own. This usually happens because of mutations in gene that control cell growth pathway. Second hallmark is evading growth suppressors. Now, again, your normal cells have checkpoints, which can be referred to as brakes that prevent uncontrolled growth. However, your cancer cells, what they do, they disable these checkpoints through genetic mutations. Yes, thus these breaks get ignored, which causes abnormal cell division. Okay. The third hallmark is resisting cell death. Now, cell death is also known as apoptosis. So, your healthy cells will undergo apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, when they are damaged or no longer needed. However, your cancer cells acquire resistance to these apoptosis mechanism, so they survive much longer than your normal cells. Okay. The fourth hallmark is enabling replicative immortality. So, again, your normal cells divide only a limited number of times because their telomeres shorten with each division. Your cancer cells bypass this limit by activating telomerase, an enzyme that maintains chromosome ends. Fifth hallmark is inducing angiogenesis. So, as mentioned earlier, cancer can stimulate the growth of new blood vessels, right? A process called as angiogenesis. So, these blood vessels supply the tumor with oxygen and nutrients, which are essential for continued growth and for spreading of the tumor to different parts of the body. And lastly, the sixth hallmark is activating invasion and metastasis. Finally, your cancer cells can also acquire the ability to invade surrounding tissues and spread to different regions through blood or lymph. And this process is called metastasis. And this property is what makes cancer dangerous, as it leads to formation of secondary tumors in other organs. Okay. So, moving on to the next slide. So, on this slide, we are looking at two major categories of genes that play a central role in cancer development. The first one is proto-oncogene, and the second one is tumor suppressor genes. So firstly, proto-oncogenes. So proto-oncogenes are basically normal genes in our body that stimulate cell division and support cell survival when required. Now, these genes are essential for normal growth and tissue repair. Yes, so we can see in this diagram that your proto-oncogenes, they regulate your normal cell division. However, when these proto-oncogenes undergo mutation, yes, so proto-oncogenes get converted into oncogenes. Oncogenes, they drive uncontrolled cell division, and this uncontrolled proliferation can eventually lead to tumor formation. Yes, so now on the other hand, we have your tumor suppressor genes. So the products of the tumor suppressor genes act like brakes in the cell cycle. They directly or indirectly prevent unnecessary cell division, or they may induce cell death when your cell is damaged or abnormal. But what happens if the tumor suppressor genes get mutated? Yes, so your tumor suppressor genes, if they get mutated, they lose their ability to stop or regulate signaling pathway. As a result, what happens is the normal inhibitory control of a gene is lost and the cell begins to proliferate abnormally. Moving on to the next slide. So, now let us talk about the role of DNA damage in cancer development. Firstly, DNA damage itself acts as a primary driver for cancer. So, over time, our cells accumulate DNA damage due to exposure to a myriad of harmful agents such as chemicals, radiations, and even viruses. If this damage is not properly repaired, it can disturb the normal functioning of our cells, right? Now, secondly, mutation in key genes, as mentioned in the previous slide, are crucial in the transition from normal cells to cancer cells. For example, mutation in oncogenes, which normally promote cell division, can make them overactive, while mutation in your tumor suppressor gene, which usually acts to inhibit cell growth, can make them lose their function. So, together, these mutations push cells into an uncontrolled proliferation, which is the important hallmark of cancer. Finally, the importance of DNA repair mechanism. Yes, so DNA repair mechanism, yes, it is well known to play a protective role in our body. So all our cells, they are equipped with regular repair systems to detect and fix DNA errors. However, when these repair mechanisms are defective, the risk of accumulating mutation increases dramatically. So, this makes cancer development more likely. A classic example is seen in case of BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutation, in which DNA repair is impaired, and this significantly leads to increased risk of breast and ovarian cancer. So moving on to the next slide. So this slide now classifies your cancer based on their origin. So the first and most common category is carcinoma. So carcinomas are the cancer that originate from epithelial cells which cover the surface of your body and also line internal organs. Examples of carcinoma include cancers of breast, colon, and lungs. Now, since epithelial tissue is widely spread in the body, carcinomas account for the majority of human cancers. The second group is sarcomas. Now, sarcomas are the cancer of the connective tissues such as bones, muscles, and cartilages. Compared to the carcinomas, sarcomas are relatively rare, but they can be quite aggressive. The third category is leukemias. So basically, leukemias are cancers of blood-forming cells in the bone marrow. In leukemia, the bone marrow produces an excessive number of abnormal white cells. So, these abnormal white cells then outnumber your normal blood cells, leading to problems in oxygen transport, immunity, and clotting. Now, finally, we have lymphomas. Now, lymphomas are the cancers of the lymphatic system, which include lymph nodes, spleen, and thymus. Now, again, since lymphatic system is a key part of your immunity, lymphomas can spread throughout the body more easily. Okay. So now, in this slide, let us look at the genetic and environment factors that influence cancer risk. So the first factor is genetic predisposition. Yes, so inherited mutations in certain genes can significantly increase the risk of developing cancers. For example, mutation in genes such as BRCA1 and BRCA2 are linked to breast and ovarian cancers. These genetic risks are passed down in families and create a higher baseline susceptibility. So, the second factor is lifestyle factors. Yes, so our daily habits play an important role in determining cancer risk. Diet, exercise, smoking, and alcohol consumption all influence cancer. For instance, a diet which is rich in processed food and excessive alcohol intake can raise cancer risk, while regular exercise and healthy eating can help reduce it. Thus, adopting a healthy lifestyle acts as a protective barrier. Yes, and the third factor is environmental exposures. So, our body is exposed to a variety of carcinogens which are present in the environment, such as tobacco, smoke, asbestos, and certain chemicals from industries. So, these can directly damage DNA and promote cancer. Now, if an individual undergoes prolonged or repeated exposure to these agents, he or she is at an elevated cancer risk. Moving on to the next slide. So, here we will be discussing about the diagnostic methods. Yes, so the first step is often a physical exam. So, in physical exam, doctors examine the patient to identify any lumps, abnormalities, or unusual changes in the body. This is a simple but important first step in detecting potential cancers. The second method involves imaging techniques such as X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, and PET scans. So, their advantage is that they allow the doctors to visualize tumors inside their body, also assess their size, shape, and location, and sometimes even evaluate whether the cancer has metastasized. The third and the most definitive method is the biopsy. So, a biopsy involves removing a small sample of tissue and examining it under the microscope. So, this not only confirms the presence of cancer but also helps determine the type of cancer and its grade. So, as shown in these images here, biopsies can be performed in different ways, such as bone marrow biopsy, excisional biopsy, needle biopsy, and sentinel node biopsy. And this depends on the suspected cancer site. The fourth method is blood test. Now, blood tests can be used to detect tumor markers or evaluate organ functions. Yes, so while blood tests alone cannot confirm cancer, abnormal results can provide important clues and often prompt doctors for further investigation. So, overall, a combination of physical exams, imaging, biopsies, and blood tests work together to ensure an accurate and early diagnosis of cancer, which is critical for effective treatment. Yes, so what are the available treatment options for cancer? So the first option is surgery. So surgery is basically removal of a tumor and it is the most common treatment. Yes, so it is especially effective when cancer is localized and has not spread to other parts of the body. The second option is chemotherapy. Yes, so chemotherapy uses drugs that will circulate throughout the body to kill the cancer cells. This makes it useful for cancers that have spread or are at a high risk of spreading. However, one disadvantage of chemotherapy is that they can also affect healthy cells, which leads to side effects that we see in cancer, such as hair loss, nausea, and fatigue. The third treatment option is radiation therapy. So, radiation therapy uses high energy rays to kill cancer cells or shrink tumors. Now, radiation therapy can be either delivered externally, that is through a machine that directs radiation to the tumor, or internally by placing radioactive material inside the body near cancer cells. So, radiation therapy is not given alone, it is always combined with surgery or chemotherapy to improve outcomes. The fourth treatment option is targeted therapies. So, unlike chemotherapies, which affects both cancerous as well as some healthy cells, your targeted therapy overcomes the disadvantage of your chemotherapy. That is, it is designed in such a way that it will specifically fix off your cancer